President Biden spoke over the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin Thursday. The two leaders discussed the Russian troop buildup near Ukraine as concerns grow over a potential invasion. Putin requested the call. It came ahead of next month's security talks in Geneva. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe has the details.
President Biden took the call from President Putin at his home here in Wilmington, Delaware. The White House says it lasted about 50 minutes and that Mr. Biden reiterated that the U.S. and NATO will respond decisively if Russia invades Ukraine and that diplomacy can only continue if Russia starts drawing down its military buildup. There are about 100,000 Russian troops positioned along the border with Ukraine, a buildup that has remained since the two leaders last spoke just 3 weeks ago. U.S. officials call this a crisis, and CBS News has learned that today the U.S. Air Force flew yet another spy plane over eastern Ukraine, this one specifically designed to track ground movements. But Russian officials tonight reiterated they want guarantees that NATO won't expand to the east into Ukraine up to the Russian border. And it wants assurances the U.S. won't place more military equipment inside Ukraine or other Eastern European countries. The Biden administration has said it won't concede to either of those demands. American and Russian diplomats are set to hold a follow-up meeting January 10th in Geneva, the same city where Presidents Biden and Putin met earlier this year. Elise?
Ed O'Keefe, thank you. For more, we want to bring in former ambassador to Ukraine, John Herbst. He's also senior director of the Atlantic's Council Eurasia Center. Thank you, sir, so much for joining us. Are you optimistic this meeting will provide a diplomatic path forward in de-escalating tensions over Ukraine?
Not really. Putin still has reason to maintain his troops at Ukraine's border. He did get these strategic talks that Russia's long wanted from us as a result of that, but he has not gotten our agreement to any of the conditions he would like to see. So he sees a reason to maintain pressure, I think. But it is true that this conversation was on balance a positive. After all, at the end of the day, the Russian side wound describing the talks as being constructive. And that suggests that they're willing to talk a little bit rather than move those troops in the wrong direction, meaning into Ukraine.
So earlier this month, President Biden warned of new economic sanctions against Russia if it invades Ukraine. Is this pressure enough to persuade the Kremlin to pull back at the border?
I think Biden has put together a strong package of measures, not just devastating sanctions, economic sanctions, but also providing weapons to Ukraine and moving NATO forces closer to the Russian border to protect those NATO countries that are near Russia. Those together represent a package that Putin would rather not see go into force. But it doesn't mean he would not invade.
That being said, if diplomacy fails, I know you said there are these things in place, but what role do you see the United States taking?
Look, if Russia decides to send 100,000 troops into Ukraine, and the U.S. responds, and the EU with the U.S. respond with devastating sanctions, if we strengthen NATO's presence in the East, if we provide weapons to Ukraine, Putin will wind up being the loser. His economy will take a major blow, which will reduce its ability to, for example, produce war materials over time. Also, Ukraine will put up a savage fight of defense, and our weapons will help them do that. I would say, though, it would be better if we sent those weapons now while Russia is threatening, rather than after Russia invades. But I do not, at the end of the day, I don't think Russia will invade. He's afraid of the package that Biden will impose upon him.
Russia says it wants the West to meet a series of demands before it pulls back troops. Among them, bar Ukraine and other ex-Soviet nations from joining NATO, which you just mentioned. Why is Vladimir Putin so concerned about that group of countries?
He feels that he has the right to dictate the policies of the countries that are his neighbors. And he is fighting for that right. This makes no sense because Ukraine, or for that matter Georgia, or for that matter Moldova, all have the right to determine their own future. This is all about Putin's desire to change the foreign policies of those nations, and especially of Ukraine. And under agreements that Russia itself has signed, this is all against international law.
I want to shift gears just a bit. President Biden has faced several significant foreign policy challenges since he took office. What's your assessment of how the administration has handled these matters?
Well, Biden made a mistake in the way he withdrew from Afghanistan. Not the decision to withdraw, but the process. That was a serious mistake which could have been avoided. I think Biden, in general terms, has been strong, pushing back against the Chinese effort to impose its will vis-a-vis Taiwan and elsewhere, vis-a-vis the United States in economic terms. I think on balance in opposing Russian provocations in Ukraine, Biden has done not a great job, but a pretty good job. So on balance, I would not say his foreign policy is a failure, with the exception of the way the Afghan withdrawal took place.
Ambassador John Herbst, thank you.
Thank you.